So we're now on Daf Vav and Beis, and the Gemara is now being medayek. Why did the Mishnah add Ad Motzi Shabbos? Why just say 4 leilos? We can count up to 4. We can count, right? Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Shabbos night. My love, the Mishnah wants to tell me an additional chidush here by adding Ad Motzi Shabbos. The lo boil motzi boil afilu b'Shabbos. That he's allowed to be boil her on Shabbos. And even though he's going to be motzi dam and he's going to make a Pesach, but we're still holding that mutar livel b'tchila b'Shabbos. And this is against Shmuel, because according to our latest tradition, Shmuel was the one who said that also livel tchila Shabbos. Again, it all depends on those two traditions. I mean, this could also be a kasha rav. It depends if who's the mekil and who's the machmir. Whoever's the machmir is going to have to address this issue about why the Mishnah adds ad motzi Shabbos. Omar Rava lo. The Mishnah doesn't mean that ad motzi Shabbos you're allowed to be boil on even on Shabbos. But rather lebar mi Shabbos. So we count Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday night, but we skip over Friday night. Because Friday night is also livel b'tchilu b'Shabbos, either because of Chabura, Meleches Chovil, or because of Pesach and Meleches Binyan. Abai says to Rava, read the words. But ad motzi Shabbos arba leilos. You can't have, the Mishnah could not have been more outspoken. It's telling you to count 4 days, 4 nights, and it's telling you that it's ad motzi Shabbos. So how are you going to get 4 nights till motzi Shabbos unless you include Friday night? So you're starting with Wednesday. Elam Rava Kishabal. We're talking about a case where either on Wednesday night or on Thursday night, meaning the night going into Thursday or the night going into Friday, they had a be'ila. But wait a second. If they had a be'ila, then for sure it's mutar on Shabbos. I mean, the Isar Shabbos is the first be'ila, but now it was a be'ila already. And Rava wants to defend the position that also live over B'chila B'Shabbos. Okay, Ik Shabal might come Ashmon. I mean, if there already was a be'ila, so you're telling me that he's allowed to be bol on Shabbos. I mean, why not? So the Gemara says, "Kamashma the shari lebivel b'Shabbos u'kiddush Shmuel." Right. So here we have to introduce a concept which is called be'ila she'ena gemura, as opposed to be'ila gemura. The first refers to a case where, although he plunged in and he broke the membrane, but he didn't really break it totally, so there's still dam there. It's only after he does a be'ila gemura that's when he removes all the psula. So now the question is, although be'ila rishon is also on Shabbos according to Rava, because he's making a chabura, he's making a Pesach, but now when he gets to be'ila shniya, and you're going to say, well, he already has a Pesach, he's already finished with the dam and the chabura, but the answer is no, because he didn't do a be'ila gemura. He didn't finish the job. Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel, Pirtzu de Chuka, Mutal Ikanis Ba B'Shabbos Afal Pishu Mishayat Tzroros. Now, Shmuel is talking about a different case. The Gemara is making an analogy to Be'ila Rishona. Shmuel is talking about a case of a kosel. And let's say you have a kosel that has an opening. You want to go through that opening on Shabbos, but it's a pirza de chuka, which means that inevitably, when you're going to plow through this, with your shoulders or whatever it might be, through this pirza de chuka, you're going to end up being, in the language of Chazal, Mishayer, Meshir, Sroros. He's going to take out some of the, those side pieces that are still hanging in there. And that's called Soser, or Meleches Bona. Now, it could very well be that Shmuel is holding like Reb Shimon, that Dover Shedim is Kamen is Mutter. And that's why he's Mutter here. I suspect that we don't have to get into this whole issue where the Shmuel holds Dover Shedim is Kamen is also a Mutter. I think we could skirt that issue completely. What we're talking about is making a Pesach when there already is a Pesach, or making a Chabura when you've already removed most of the dam. That's not called a Meleches Machsheves. Every Melech has to have a shear, a minimum amount. It's got to be Choshev. Otherwise, it's not Meleches Machsheves. Here also, Shmuel is saying it's not a Meleches Machsheves. What are you taking off? A little piece here, a little piece there? So therefore, the Chiddush here is that if there was a Be'ila Rishona before Shabbos, it was not a Be'ila Gemura, he's allowed to have a Be'ila Gemura on Shabbos and finish up with the Toros. Rav Yosef, another kasha from a different Mishnah in Masechet Brachos against that opinion that says also live on B'tchila b'Shabbos. Chasan potter b'kriyas ma'alayla rishona ad motzi Shabbos lo asa ma'aser. What's going on here? We've set up now 4 nights, starting with Revi going into Chamishi, including Shabbos, and he's potter from Kriyat Shema. He's Torud. Torud means he's so preoccupied with the mitzvah Rishona, either because he's not confident in himself or he's afraid maybe she won't have psulin, whatever the case may be, and he's potter from Kriyat Shema. Now, why should he potter from Kriyat Shema on Friday night if also livel b'tchila b'Shabbos? My love, the Torah, the boil miva. His tirda is because he wants to be Mekayim the mitzvah. Of Bila Rishona. By the way, the Gaonim had a special bracha for Bila. Okay, it fell into. So now, how can he be Torud in entire mitzvah on Friday night when he can't do the mitzvah? It's also the middle of B'tchila b'Shabbos. So Rav Yosef is going to prove from that Mishnah that that there is a mitzvah even on Shabbos, even though it's a Bila Rishona. There's no Isser Malach. Abai turns to Rav Yosef, as he always does. Lo, I'm going to deflect your proof. The Tarid the low boy. The reason why he's put for Kriyat Shema is because he's so preoccupied with the fact that he cannot do the Be'ila. When you have a mitzvah and you're so eager to fulfill it, if you cannot fulfill it, you've been robbed of that mitzvah, you get Tarid about it. So the new Chiddush of Abaye is that the reason why Chassan is part from Kriyat Shema is not because he's being osek in the Kiyama mitzvah, the Ila. Just the opposite. It's the Tarid v'lo boy. He's Tarid v'tzaro because he cannot fulfill the mitzvah. It's not possible for him to fulfill the mitzvah. So again, on Leil Shabbos, we have a different kind of osek b'mitzvah. It's not the osek b'mitzvah because he's involved in the mitzvah that he can't do. It's Leil Shabbos. But he's Tarid b'kiyama mitzvah dafka because low boil. That's why he's part of a Kriyat. Amalei Rava says Tabai Mishum Tir the Potu Liata Tovis Viosa Biyam Achinab Potu. Is there really a Ptur called Mitztayer? Because he's upset. I mean, a man loses all his money in a crash in the stock market. Therefore, what? He's pot from Kriyat Shema. Man saw his ship with all his merchandise go down. So he's Kriyat Shema. We don't have a Ptur of Tirdim, of Tsar. We have a Ptur Osik b'mitzvah. So to what extent is this Tirda that he wasn't able to be Boel? That's a very strange kind of Tirka that we should apply the principle of Osik b'mitzvah. And listen, don't even entertain the idea that a mitzvah is put in a mitzvah. Mitzvah is put in a sukkah, but not in a mitzvah. After the kvura, he's obligated in all tiring mitzvahs. Chutz min atfilin should never been pe'er. So on the very day of Misa, he's not allowed to put on tefillin. And this is derived from a pasuk in Yechezkel. Should never been pe'er pe'ercha chavo shalecha. So since it says the word pe'er, therefore we say it's not pe'er for tefillin to be worn on the gavra, on the karkafta the gavra that's an ovel. You see that an ovel is chayiv in mitzvahs. I mean, an ovel is meant to be preoccupied with his avelus. And yet you tell him he's chayiv in all mitzvahs, with the exception of tefillin on Yom Rishon, whatever. In any event, you see that someone who's mitzvah is still chayiv in mitzvahs, and ovel is chayiv in all mitzvah Torah. And this is Gemara in Sukkah of Hay. I remember when the Rav discussed that Gemara, he pointed out that he thinks, again, we have to go through the diuk, but he thinks that Gemara is indicating that the chiyuv of an ovel to do mitzvahs is even greater than anyone else. That's why an ovel is a shatz and so on and so on, because an ovel is chayiv in tziduk adin. You know, he has to accept upon himself the judgment on high. Etc. And in that context, he has a special chiv to do mitzvahs. Rava says, I have to admit that us and potum in our mitzvahs would not be a result of tsar. Right? He's not Torah b'tur the mitzvah. But the reason why he's potum from Kriyat Shema, even on Leil Shabbos, is because mutter livel b'sula b'Shabbos, and therefore he's osik b'mitzvah. So now we have to ask a kasha on Shmuel. Shmuel says also livel b'sula b'Shabbos, and the answer is Tanoi. We have machlokas Tanoim on this very issue about whether you're allowed to be boiled bila rishon or bila b'sula or not on Shabbos. We have one price that says imlo osa maisa barishon potter up b'sheni, and b'sheni potter up b'shlish. So if the chassan did not consummate his marriage with a be'ilah, a maisa be'ilah, on Leil Chamishi, which is the first night after his nasuin, which is on Yom Revi, then he's potter from Kriyat Shema even on Sheni, which is Leil Shishi. And if he didn't do Be'ila on Shlishi, on Sheni, he's potter even b'Shlishi. You see clearly this Tana holds mutter livel b'tfila b'Shabbos. He's only telling you what do you do if, in an event that he didn't do the Be'ila on Shabbos. Either on the other hand, we have another price that says Rishon v'Sheni potter, but Leil Shlishi chayiv. He's chayiv at Kriyat Shema on Friday night. He's only potter on Wednesday night and Thursday night, but Friday night he's chayiv, because also livel b'tchila b'Shabbos. So the Gemara asks for Abaye, how's Abaye going to support this machlokas tanoim that we just learned? According to Abaye, even though it's also livel b'tchila b'Shabbos, nevertheless the chassan in this scenario is potur from Kriyat Shema, birchas Kriyat Shema. No, so what's going on over here? I mean, you're talking about a person who is potter from Kriyat Shema, even though he cannot fulfill the mitzvah of Be'ila Rishona. Because we're holding now that also livel b'tchila b'Shabbos. So on Friday night, why should he be potter from Kriyat Shema? The only answer you can give me is he's Torah, because he doesn't have the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah. We just excluded that in the case of Avil. So Gemara answers, Hasam Nami, Betirda Pligi. The Tanoim that you quote as debating whether or not Mutalivel B'Tchil B'Shabbos or Osmer, no, you got it wrong, says Abai. They're not arguing about Be'ilas B'Sula and Shabbos. Even the Tana that says he's Potter from Kriyat Shema, that's not because Mutalivel B'Shabbos, but he's Mitzayir Al Shalo Ba. And according to this opinion, even if a person is mitzayir at tzar shel mitzvah, but it's shelo b'shas kiyuma, so you follow that it's the chiyuv, the chovetz mitzvah that triggers off the mitzayir when he can't fulfill the mitzvah. And he's going to be potter from Kriyat Shema because he's mitzayir tzar shel mitzvah shelo b'shas kiyuma. So it's not like Tovas Finos B'Yam, which is not a third of mitzvah at all. Now, an Ovel is chayev in all mitzvahs, even though he's mitzvah al meso. And the answer is because he doesn't have a mitzvah of tzar. Which I think we can interpret in light of what I said before in the name of Rav Soloveitchik, that he's on the contrary, he's got a special, unique obligation of mitzvahs. Now, according to that Tana who says Yechayev in Kriyat Shema on Leil Shabbos, because you cannot be an osik b'mitzvah on Leil Shabbos, also live Shabbos, he's not going to accept this bit of tzar shel mitzvah, that there's a tour called tzar shel mitzvah. You got to be osik bo, l'kaima, involved in implementing the mitzvah. So since on Shabbos it's also livel b'tchila b'Shabbos, so he's not being osik in the mitzvah. And if he's not being osik in the mitzvah, then he's chayev in Kriyat Shema. And now we go back to Rava, because this is Abaye. So Rava rejected Abaye. Lahani tanoi, ki hani tanoi. So Rava is going to say something totally different. Those tanoim that have a controversy as to whether or not a chassan is part of a Kriyat Shema on Leil Shabbos, their machlokus is ki hani tanoi. The machlokus of Tanoim in the following brisa. Yisanya akonis esabsu lo yivol b'tchila b'Shabbos kachon matir. So let's read the brisa. Yisanya akonis esabsu lo yivol b'tchila b'Shabbos kachon matir. So we have here an explicit brisa that codifies machlokas, whether Bila Rishona in a situation is mutar on Shabbos or also b'Shabbos. So those Tanoim who are debating the question whether chassid is part from Kriyat Shema on Leil Shabbos, they're basically identical with this machlokas The Gemara says, "Man chachamim, who are the chacham who allow it?" Omar Rabba, Rabbi Shimon Dom Shein Miskav Mut. So we're basically speaking about making a Pesach, and he doesn't have kavanah to make a Pesach, and therefore it's a Dov Shein Miskav, and we're holding like Rabbi Shimon in this particular Tana. Alternatively, he doesn't have kavanah through his beila to make a chabura, and therefore he's not going to be chayiv for meleches chover. Amalei Abai turns to Rab and he says, "Well, moder of shimsik reish v'lo yamus." So now we know that he's going to be making a Pesach. So even if he doesn't have kavanah to make a Pesach, since we know without a shadow of a doubt he's going to make a Pesach, then it's a psik reisha, and Reb Shimon would hold it asur. So how are you going to justify the heter of that Tana to be boiled tchila b'Shabbos? Amalei Rabbi responds, "Abai lokal bavloi she'in bekim batoya el yesh bekim batoya." In Be'ila Batoya, when he moves his organ in such a way, he can go around without making a Pesach, without bringing the dam out. And that's not a psik reisha. And here we have a tremendous machlokas how to interpret this Gemara. Is it not a psik reisha because theoretically he could do it b'hatoya? Or is it not a psik reisha because he has kavan, he's trying very hard to do it b'hatoya? In any event, the Gemara says in Kain Torah Lama, why do you say that a chassid is potter from Kriyat Shema on Leil Shabbos? Because he's Torah. In Be'ila, if he's a Baki, the Gemara doesn't think that such a Baki is an expert. He probably has experience. He should be Torah. So the Gemara answers no. Lemisha Eino Baki, when it says that you're pot for Kriyat Shema, it wasn't referring to a Baki. He's not Torah, but rather to someone who's not a Baki. That's why he's. So Gemara now raises the following objection: if the heter Be'ila of Basil B'Shabbos is only going to Reb Shimon, and it's only for a person who's not going to make a Pesach or bring out dam because he's a Baki Batoya. So why does it say v'chacham matirim yomru Baki mutter sheina Baki also? What's this chacham matirim? The stomach, as if to take all cases under that same law. And the answer is Rov Bikime. The reason why he doesn't have to mention an Eino Baki is because most people are Bikim. So the Mishnah doesn't feel compelled to mention any Baki. But if he's an Eino Baki, then it's also live over B'tchila B'Shabbos. Amalei Rava, Barav Chanan, Labaya, Lame'ata, Shushvina Lama, Mapa Lama. Right, we're going to learn later on in a few days that the minhag in Yehuda was that outside the Chas and Kala's room, they posted two shvina, and these would supervise to make sure there was no harama, they shalo yarimu zel zeh with regard to dam basula, because maybe she's a basula, and there was dam, and the chassan is going to take this sheet or whatever that has the evidence that she had dam, and he's going to hide it. He's going to say, well, she wasn't a basula, I don't want to pay the ksuba, and so forth. There's also going to be a mappa on the mita, so that after the be'ila, they can take the mappa out and see whether there's dam basula. But what do we need this for? You tell me Rov became batoya. So if he's going to do batoya, if he wants to lie and fabricate this whole story and say she wasn't the basula, he could do so. He'll show the mappa, and there's no dam on the mappa because he did it by toya. He's not going to admit he did it by toya. He's going to say he did it be'ila gemura straight ahead, full swing forward, like the truck that goes right through. Amalei, so Gemara says, Hasam and Yehuda, Shema Yirav Ya'aved. They were afraid that maybe in a case where he did find dam, he's going to get rid of the evidence, hide the sheets, and claim that he didn't find dam. That's where the Shishvina and the Mappa are going to help. They're not going to let him get away with the idea, well, there was no dam. They're going to prove that there was dam. Again, if you're worried about a case of Hataya, and he's going to claim that he didn't find dam, that's not a problem because she's a basula in such a case. And the Gemara has later on a whole sugya about how to prove a basula is a basula, with the barrel of wine and all that stuff. Masa Rabbi Ami, from Mishnah in Edius Perik Beis, Amafis Mursa. Right, he's got a boil on his body. It's full of pus. So what he does is he pushes it down and he creates an opening so that the air could come in and out. And that's going to heal his wound. So if he wants to create this opening so the air that could come in and go in and out, that's called a Pesach Sha'os Osui Likanes Lahotzi and Yechai Bishum Meleches Binyan. And there's Binyan Begufo Shel Adam, as Rashi quotes the pasuk Vayiven Es Hatzela in Bereishis. If he only takes a needle and he plucks a little opening to get out the pus, but he's not interested in creating a whole professional opening, with the air coming in and the air coming out, then patur. And patur means patur mutter. This is a malacha shem tzricha legufa. He doesn't need that the makkah should be open as a Pesach lahachnis lahotzi. He doesn't have any need for that. His purpose is just to get out the lecha, but not to create a Pesach. So Rabbi Ami is going to now ask a kasha, mafis mursa, besides creating a Pesach of motzi and lahachnis. And you told me that if his kavanah was lahotzi ulahachnis, right? Then I'm saying if his kavanah was only lahotzi lecha, but not lahachnis avir, then it's mutter. And the question is, forget about Pesach for a minute. Okay, he didn't have kavanah to make a Pesach, but what about chovel? Is this a problem of chovel? Meaning, we're assuming the makkah has not only pus in it, but has an admixture of blood as well. And in the case of a makkah, it's certainly blood that's mifkid pocket, right? It's not part of the circulatory system. It's already enveloped in that boil, or whatever you want to call it. So in dam besulim, which again is not mechuber leguf, if you hold mifkid pocket, then there won't be any iser chavola. Right, so the only Isur would be Asiyas Pesach, but we're saying that this is Lahotzi Lecha. So if it's Lahotzi Lecha, then in the case of Mapis Mursa, he's not creating a Pesach. And we said that in the case of, let's say, Be'ila Rishona, he's not interested in making a Pesach. Let's assume that Shmuel holds Davar Shenim Miskabed is Mutter. So why does Shmuel Aser Be'ila Rishona B'Shabbos? The only answer could be B'Shum Chovel. But why would you say chovel if it's mifkad pocket? In mifkad pocket, we never say chovel. So the Gemara now is going to have to differentiate between two categories of mifkad pocket here on the bottom of the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. Awesome with regard to Mursa, where there's a mixture of dam and pus and lecha. It's pocket v'akir. It's not at all connected to the guf. And therefore, there's no Isser in removing that dam. But hach, in the case of dam psulin, pakid v'lo akid. Even though it's true, it's mostly concentrated in that membrane. It's not mechuber to the rest of the evarim, to dam evarim, but nevertheless, it's not akur ligami. It's not totally removed from the guf. It's partially absorbed in the ksalim, right, the walls of her uterus, and it's got an element of mechubar, and therefore you're not allowed to take out that. All right, then this is where we're going to stop here on the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph with Rabbi Ami, which is the second line on Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. Okay, then, let me wish you a great day.